Well, we're waiting for the release of the FISA abuse memo, which may come as soon as today. So this seems like a good time to talk about the nature of truth. Last week, a few of you dinged me for saying that I believe the Bible contains myths and legends as well as literal history. To be clear, I believe the Bible was inspired by God and is the truest book we have about God, but that doesn't mean that every word should be taken literally. In fact, it means the opposite. Biblical literalism, the idea that every word in the Bible describes an actual event and is not meant allegorically or metaphorically, is a more or less recent phenomenon in the Christian church. Early church fathers like Origen and St. Augustine rejected literalism, specifically citing the creation story in Genesis as allegorical. The Catholic Church has never adopted literalism. It came into play in a big way around the 1700s, around the same time science was beginning to bring some biblical stories into question. Maybe it was a way of responding to that of holding the line against science, or maybe it just followed from the Reformation idea that Scripture is the only source of theological truth, not the church. But it really sells the Bible short. If every word in the Bible were literally true, it could never express the deepest truths of all. The fact is, there are different kinds of narratives designed to express different types of truths, and the Bible contains all of them. For instance, if I tell you I saw a fire on the way to work and I ran into the burning building and braved the flames to rescue 2 children, that story better be literally true, or else every piece of information it's relaying to you is a lie. It's trying to tell you I'm a hero and I'm not a hero. But if I say once upon a time there were 3 bears, or there was a man who had 2 sons, you don't ask me for the bear's address or the names of the sons, because you know I'm trying to convey a kind of wisdom that historical stories don't necessarily tell. A play like Hamlet is more truthful for being a piece of fiction, because the fact that it's fiction lets us know it's conveying a genius's vision of human experience rather than a series of events that just happen to occur in real life. A story like Job probably begins with an underlying historical event, but like the story of Faust, it has to be elaborated by the human mind into a legend in order to bring out the fullness of its revelation. Now and then, a special event comes along that captures both an historical event and the deeper truth of allegory. The story Donald Trump told at the State of the Union about a crippled man's epic escape from North Korea is a story like that. It's an amazing real-life adventure, but it's also an allegory about the human heart's indomitable yearning for freedom. Washington crossing the Delaware is another true story with allegorical power, and I believe the resurrection of Christ is a story like that. It must be literally true in order for us to be freed from sin and to confirm that there's a life beyond life that makes sense of our morality and our human aspirations. But it's also a mighty allegory for the way the world continually murders truth and the fact that the truth, nonetheless, never dies. When and if the FISA memo is released, I believe we're going to see a lot of different stories begin to tell themselves. For instance, we may be treated to a literal history of government malfeasance and the media's willful and destructive blindness in service to a racial pathology and a political ideology. But we're also sure to see the guilty rushing to obscure that story, to twist it and bury it and slander the people who told it, which can serve as an allegory for the ways of the world. Whatever happens, stay calm and don't worry. The world continually tries to murder the truth, and yet the truth never dies. I know that for a fact, because the Bible tells me so. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.